Welcome, 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 welcome. Sorry for the long delay. We had some technical issues. Um, Trying to get everything worked on. Easter Sunday to everybody that's tuning in. Again, welcome to Finding Notice podcast. I'm one of your hosts. My boy is running a little bit late, but it's all on me today. I got to take the full blame on this one today, man. But we got a great conversation coming up today. Today's conversation is going to be a powerful one. I feel like somebody's going to be blessed from this one because I know it was a blessing to me when we first started talking about it. If you're coming on, please, we are live on YouTube. Follow us on the Final Notice podcast on YouTube and also on Facebook at Final Notice podcast on Facebook too as well. Now, while we're waiting for my co-host to come in, today's conversation is about how to turn your pain into a blessing. And I feel like a lot of us, we have a lot of struggles that we go through, things that we deal with, and sometimes it overtakes us. But we forget that in the midst of us going through what we are going through, there's a hidden message within the pain and the suffering that we're going through. And we just have to actually figure it out, tap into that, and see how we can turn that pain into a blessing to put a smile on our face. So today's conversation is pretty much based off of how do we do it? Like, how do we take something that is so negative, that is something that we don't like, into something that can become a blessing to us and others around us? And this conversation pretty much started off from me looking at the story of Jabez or Yabez, however many people pronounce it. I like to pronounce the J. Some people don't like to pronounce it. And then that story of his life was found in the book of Chronicles, First Chronicles chapter 4, verse 9 to 10. Anybody that have read it or is accustomed to it, you know, hold on, I think Aaron just came in. What's up, brother?
God bless, brother. How you feeling, man?
And it's all on me today, man.
Hey, man.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
life. It's life.
Bad timing today, man. I just had some unexpected last minute events that I had to attend to, and it kind of like threw everything off. But nevertheless, we're here. Um, and as I was getting warmed up with it, I was telling people where this conversation is coming from, and
Mm-hmm.
it's coming from the book of First Chronicles chapter 4, verse 9 to 10. And we're talking about the story of Jabez. I think that's how you pronounce it. Some people pronounce it Jabez, but I pronounce it as Jabez. I do pronounce the J. And the story of his life was pretty much that he was a person who asked God for a specific transformation in his life. And anybody that know the story about Jabez, his name itself, his name Jabez was actually a name that meant pain.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine you having a child as a parent, and based off of what you went through with him through the labor, you give him the name pain. And we all know that words are something that can actually come and manifest into our lives, right? We can say certain things and it can manifest. The Bible says you can bless with the tongue and also curse with the tongue. So with that name that his mom called him, he was a curse to not just himself but to others around him, because
Mm-hmm.
everybody that saw him was like, oh, that's the boy that his mother had him out of pain, because that's what his name represents: pain, sorrow. I wouldn't say disappointment, but it was something that it wasn't a name that stated that I'm happy that you're here. It was a name that was given to him out of pain and hurt and suffering, right? So for somebody to have that all his years of his life, until one day he finally realized that he has something that, or not something, but he has someone that can change his life around for him. So that's where the conversation started from: is how do we turn our pain into blessing?
That's a great question. Before we get started, I just wanted to thank everybody for tuning in. I know we running a little bit of late and everything, but I just want to say I never want to take anybody for granted. I never want to take the audience for granted. We will do better. We can do better. We will do better. And it reminds me of a time when, I had this leader and we just kept going from place to place. And I was saying that, we can't take the people for granted just because they trust our voice. And I'll never want to be that arrogant and I never want to be that, um, you know, into myself that I don't recognize the people, because we are the ones that are accountable to you, So I just want to thank you for taking your time and being patient with us and showing up. And your time is valuable to us. So we just want to thank you. But I would say I can only speak from personal experience in how I turned my pain into blessings. It started with forgiveness, bro. Like, um, I know I'm not the only person that heard these things before, but I used to hear people call their baby dads donors after the relationship spoils. And I was like, that's crazy because he wasn't a donor when he was donating. Y'all was routinely practicing. So he was not a donor then. So how come he becomes a donor now? I've had a neighbor, I live next door to a neighbor, and I would wait, get my daughter ready for preschool at the time and we getting ready to leave out the house. And I heard my neighbor cussing her child out. Like she had two kids, so she had her children. But I think it's more so was the boy. And then when I actually seen the boy fathers, I realized how much that boy actually looked like the father. But she was always harder on him. But I mean, she was cussing these kids up, like wake your M, F, and A up, and all this other stuff that she was saying. And I was trying to figure out why she was talking to those kids like that. Like what's the deal? Like what. And then the other third example was it was a girl that was in a relationship and broke up with her husband or split with her husband. And her mindset was, I don't need him. People want me. I don't need him. So when I was looking at the situations, I was like, I don't want to be like none of those situations that I've seen, because I guess I would say, and I use those examples as of women, I guess maybe because I didn't know too many men, first of all, who experienced any kind of that level hurt. And if they did, to me, like as guys, and we was always hiding it. So it was nothing. Like nobody, I don't know too many men that expressed that level of hurt with me before. So as I looked around, I said, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to go through any of those situations. I don't want to be calling anybody any names and feeling some kind of way. So the first thing that was put in my heart to do was forgive, because forgiveness is not for that person. Forgiveness is for you. I had a high school teacher that told me that the moment you allow someone to control your emotions, they might as well own you. And thinking on those moments and stuff, I was like, I never wanted anyone to own me. I never wanted anyone to have control over me. So when in those moments, as hard as it is, you got to learn how to forgive. And that was the first thing that I moved into to the taking those steps and turning my pain into blessing.
And it's crazy because everybody have a way of dealing with their pain. Everybody has a level, have a different way to deal with pain. First of all, right? And we're not saying don't
Absolutely.
acknowledge the fact that you're in pain or you upset or you
Hmm.
hurt or you sad. It's just about you know
It's
finding a
steps.
way to use that, strategizing
Hmm.
that, right? Because remember we had a conversation. I was talking about how I gave Paul as an example. And the first thing that us as believers we ask, or people that that have a believe in their higher being, which is God, um, is the first thing we ask when we become, we finally get the understanding of God, is that God, I want you to change my life, change me,
Hmm.
change
Hmm.
me, change me. And then I use Paul as an example that when Paul was of the world, he was bold, he was fearless, he was the one rounding up the Christians to persecute them. He was the one who was given the declaration going into synagogues to have them arrested and imprisoned, right? But when
Hmm.
Paul became of the kingdom, he used that attribute. God didn't change Paul, he just changed his attributes for it to become a blessing to the kingdom. He used what people would have saw as something negative, and God turned into a positive, not changing the physical being of Paul, but the transformation of the mindset.
Mhm.
If you are bold to be able to do something in the world for a negative aspect, then be bold to do it in a positive manner with a transformation of your mindset, right? Paul was the same one that would, you know, be captive, held as a prisoner, whipped,
Mhm.
chained up. As soon as they release him, he'll go right back into the middle circle preaching the gospel again.
That's right.
Paul was being tormented, but because of his boldness, he didn't let that stop. He didn't let the
Mhm.
pain that he was going through stop him. Rather, he pressed on to give the gospel, to give to share the gospel, so others could be also be saved like him. So he
Absolutely.
asked God, or when God touched him, God didn't change him physically the way that we as believers now want to be changed. God just used the attribute of what he already had. He enhanced it to glorify the kingdom. And I think that is one of the biggest things that I personally had to go through. And everybody know that's on here. Again, welcome to Final Notice podcast. Normally starting Sundays, 7 o'clock sharp. We had some issues that, at least on my end, that delayed the start. But many of you guys who have been following this up to this episode or to this topic, I have not shied away from talking about the things that I went through in the sense of me being locked up and trying
Mhm.
to find my way into life. It is
Mhm.
some, if I sat down and really broke it down to some of you guys, and there's some people that may have gone through what I've gone through to a different extent that I would not be able to withstand. But some of the things that I went through, that emotional, the depression, the anxieties, the lack of hope, it was something that tormented me. Sleeping just even on those metal beds for months, which is about this thick, is the mattress they give you. It's about this thick,
Mhm.
and the
Mhm.
pillow they give you it's not even it's no thicker than the mattress itself, right? And I remember sitting in there, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, man, when am I going to get sentenced? Because at this point, I'm like, just give me my time, because just even in the waiting process, it's painful enough. Because every time they roll your door, you don't know what your lawyer is going to say. He don't know. So it's like at that point, and I'm like, yo, just hurry up and give me my sentence, right? But it was at that time I said, God, turn my situation around. I said,
Mhm.
all this pain that I'm going through, all this suffering that I'm giving to my families and my friends and my brothers and my sisters, especially my mother, turn that into a blessing.
Right.
How
Right.
does that be? How does that even start? It started with me doing this, changing this. I changed this.
Paul
I
said
didn't
12, what's that? Romans 12, 1 and 2. I beseech you, therefore, my brethren, by the renewing of your mind.
right.
That's what you do. That's step number one, like you
It's the
said.
first step. So when you say learning forgiving yourself, that is something that you have to first learn to do in order for you to be able to even
Priceless.
understand the type of pain that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
The question that I have for you as a believer, right? And we talked about this a little bit before we had even this conversation. Somebody that has lost a loved one to some type of senseless violence. How
Right.
do you
Right.
encourage that person to then ask that person to say, hey, take your pain and turn it into a blessing? How do you even begin to have that conversation with that person?
So, like you said, everything is a process, bro.
Mhm.
Everything starts with a process. Like you said, you gotta start with. I always tell people that your pain for change has to be greater than the pain to stay the same.
Mm.
So that's where it has to come from. So when you accept that I want change, and when you accept that I want to go forward, what's the first steps? Like you said, renewing of your mind. When you start renewing of your mind, you gotta have to put forgiveness first. But I tell you that forgiveness comes in different stages. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
You have to forgive yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like I never forget one time we was in a situation, I found myself back home living with my mom, right? And that is me and my daughter. And this is probably like maybe the third or fourth time. And I felt like such a failure. I felt like such a loser. And I'm like, dang, how did I end back here again? In the basement again with my daughter again. Like, how is this happening, right? And it came to me just so clear. It was like, why do you feel like you did something wrong?
Mm.
Everything ain't about you. Everything is about a process. Everything is about him getting the glory. So there's steps in all of these things. So once you start forgiving yourself, you realize like some of this stuff don't have anything to do with you, right? But then when you talk about also forgiving, you have to understand that the human flesh is not possible forgiving. We're not capable as human beings of forgiving. And if you don't believe me, the Bible says there is no good within our flesh. So when you forgive somebody, it's a good thing. The Holy Spirit that's within us is the only thing that's capable of allowing us to forgive. So when you start that process, that people need to understand three things. Like one thing, people understand something. Just like there's the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, there are three entities working in us as a human, right? Our soul is going to end up in heaven or hell. Then there's our flesh that we live in that validates us in this earth. Our flesh is what validates us from being on this earth. If we don't have a flesh, a skin suit, we're not going to be here. And then there's the Holy Spirit, which we are made in the image of God. So there are the three components that make us up. Most of the times when we are hurt and we're in pain, our flesh is taking over, right? So what produces that? Anger, like you said, anxiety, regret, remorse. All of these things is coming out of your flesh. But that's the reason why the Bible said we're supposed to bring our flesh under subjection daily. Daily, bro. Not every other week, not once a month. We're supposed to bring our flesh under subjection daily. You know what I'm saying? So when we bring that under subjection, then we're allowing our spirit to come forth. That's why people fast. We fast so that, our flesh can become weak. And then our weakness, his strength is made perfect. So once we start doing that, and we allow the Holy Spirit to lead us and guide us and start, working through us, then we are capable of allowing him to lead that brokenness within us.
And I'm glad you said that, because I think personally it was one of the hardest part of my life when my transition was learning how to turn that pain into a blessing. I can honestly say I'm a blessing, because before I couldn't say that. I've been a blessing to the homeless community because I turned I asked God, I said, use me in a way where I can put a smile on somebody's face. Use me in a way where, God, that if somebody is broken, heartbroken, I can speak some words of encouragement to uplift their spirit, right? So I've always asked for that, because I didn't come home sitting on my hands. Some dudes come home and they're like, man, I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't even find a job. Yeah, but nobody said it was going to be easy. You know what I'm saying? When I came home, it wasn't easy. Nobody handed me a job. You know how many times I got turned down from a job, Aaron? I didn't cry in front of managers. I didn't cry in the parking lot. I didn't cry in front and in the store. I didn't been fired from jobs where I felt I was well overqualified for, well overeducated for. But because of my past background, they either took the job away from me or they told me I wasn't qualified for the job.
That's right.
But I didn't stop. I didn't just get up and say, you know what, I'm going to be a homeowner. It took me 7 years. It might take somebody 2 years. It took me 7 solid years. 7 solid years of hard work and kept pressing on, right? So I made sure that transformation of the mindset of myself was that, you know what, no matter how many times they told me no, because I had faith in God, I was going to wait till God said this person was going to tell you yes. So I kept pressing forward. And I think a lot of us, we give up too quickly. We give up too quickly when we are going through the transformation or that pain or that anguish or that situation that we're in. So we might be even at the beginning of that blessing stage, but then we turn back because we didn't went for it 10 times, and maybe that 11th time we like, man, forget it. Not knowing that 11th time was the blessing call right there.
Right.
So it's good.
One thing you didn't do, which is great, because this is something that we all need to learn how to do. You did not build yourself up in pride, bro. So many people try to rebuild themselves in pride. Where they say like, well, forget this. I'm still this. I can do that. Which could have easily allowed you to become arrogant and then go seek alternative means of income, which would probably put you back in the same situation. You know what I'm saying? They say pride comes before downfall, a hardy spirit before destruction. So when you are building yourself back up, never do it in pride. Never sit back and look at your accomplishments or your accolades. Like you said, you was highly educated. You know what I'm saying? You know, a lot of these people, you said you was overqualified. So when you know these things about yourself and you know you're in those situations, you know what I'm saying? Like, because it'll develop a certain arrogance about you. And then what you end up doing is you'll start bleeding on people. And then you might think you're strong, you might think you're overcoming, but people going to see it. Like, you might not see it because now you become blinded by yourself. You became full of yourself that you don't even see your own leaks. You don't even see your own, shortcomings and your downfalls. And now it's like, okay, people don't want to be around you. Now your pride is making you think that it's other people around you. No, it's not. It's you. Look in the mirror. You accepted accountability. And the other thing you said was that you was waiting on God. Now, this is another thing that I want to talk about in another episode, is basically how do you get everything that you want from God, right? And it's easy. Like, it's like you said, even this is a process, right? So when you sit back there and you're saying, like, I'm waiting on God to do something, well, you can't sit back and say, I'm waiting on God to do something, but then you go and take it upon yourself to go and do it. They don't work hand in hand. You know what I'm saying? You said you had to sit there and wait. Right? You had to wait for him to send you the person. You had to wait for him to open up the door. But if you're waiting and you are asking God to do something, you can't go out now and, like you said, in your own arrogance, in your own pride, and be like, no, I'm going to make a way for me. I'm me. I'm this. You know what I'm saying? Now you start building yourself up and you're going to inflate yourself. You're going to make a lot of people walk away from you. And it's not the people. It's you. It's your arrogance. Is your lack of humility, is your lack of awareness and not understanding the situation that you're in. So sometimes you just got to humble yourself. Like you said, under the mighty hand of God, in the due time, he will exalt you. But if you sit back saying that you're waiting on God to do something, that's a process.
And it's crazy because that is probably like the hardest thing you can ever go through, is to go through that pain and the pain in that process. Listen, if you are somebody that's watching this, or if you're somebody that's going through this, embrace that process. Embrace whatever process you're in, and then ask God to give you the wisdom as you're going through that process, so that way when he gives you the sign, you don't miss it when it's time for you to move.
Absolutely.
You don't want to miss that sign, because you don't want, like you say, you don't want to be overdrowned within that pain, within that sorrow, within that anguish. If you're looking for that blessing, you can't be, like my brother said, you can't be full of yourself. You have to be able, listen, when you talk about humility and humbling yourself, I don't even think within my soul there's anything that's called pride. At least now, it's not. Maybe before, yes. Now, I could, because the way that my process took me, it had to destroy everything that was in me that was something that was going against the kingdom of God. I had to. Is the probably like the friends I had to cut some. I had to lose friends.
And
it's something that people say all the time. No new friends. You're a fool if you don't feel like you need a new friend. You need new friends. Because those new friends are the ones that God is putting in front of you to help you elevate you to your next level. God physically don't come down and do stuff for people no more. He uses other people, other vessels. So if you're one of those people that's going through what you're going through, and here I come along and he trying to be my friend, I ain't got time. Hey man, you might have just missed out. Because the people that I met in my life going through that process, had I not been humble enough, even in my lowest of my low, had I not been humble enough to listen to the advice that kept constantly coming over and over and over and over like a broken record, and me still didn't listen to it over and over and over and over like a broken record, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. Because at that time, nothing that anybody would tell me was a positive for me. And it would speak in positivity, but I was so much into my pain and my suffering that I didn't even hear the positivity they were saying. All I knew
Absolutely.
that I had to get up from where I was at. I had to move.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What God tell the children of Israelites when they were sitting at the Mount Sinai? He said, "Go down there, Moses, and tell these children to move. They didn't got comfortable here. You
Right.
can't get comfortable in your sorrow. You can't get comfortable in your pain. You
You
have
can't
to
get
be,
comfortable in your arrogance. You can't get comfortable in yourself.
you have to go through it. It's a process, but it's a process that builds your character. It's one
It's
of
not
those
only
things that
that.
build you up. It will build you up if you allow it to build you up.
I'll tell you even another conversation that I had, right? I'm like, when they say launch out in the deep, go deep. God want to take you deeper. I actually heard somebody tell me that they was afraid to go deeper. And I was like, why? And my thought process in my mind was like, okay, you don't want to go through this process. You don't want to go deeper. But you act like what you have now is so much better. Like, what are you losing?
Mm.
What do you have to lose? What, you're gonna lose yourself? Good. If you're going to lose yourself, then good. Because obviously, what you were doing up until this point, it wasn't working. I tell people all the time, if you knew how to be a millionaire, you'd be one by now. You
Mm.
know what I'm saying? You can't be the strongest one in your group. You can't, because then your group is never going to grow past your strength. You know what I'm saying? You have to surround yourself with people, like you said, that's going to feed you, that's going to grow you, that's going to put you in those situations. Even though, like I said, I'm not following some of the leaders that brought me up to this place, I would be a lie to sit back and say that they didn't offer me anything, because I followed them and I walked with them until I was able to be mature enough
Mm.
to understand that this season of my life now was over. You know what I'm saying? Now I have to find another person that's going to lead me to where, now that I understand and know who I am, now that I understand and accept my calling, now I have to find someone that's going to lead me to where I need to be. It's just unfortunate I haven't found that person yet. But when they do come, like I said, I'm preparing myself like David did. I'm humbling myself. You know what I'm saying? I forgave myself. I forgave those people who I felt did things wrong to me. You know what I'm saying? And I tell you another thing I even went out to the process and did as I was healing, right? And
Mm.
trying to get my blessings. Everybody that I ever thought that I'd done wrong to, I called them. And if any of them ever see this, they'll know. I'm like, yo, I'm sorry if I ever hurt you. I'm sorry if I ever you felt like I ever took advantage of you. I'm sorry if, you know what I'm saying, I didn't do right by you when I was growing up. Because what they say, once you come to yourself, now you got to walk therein. You know what I'm saying? So now I'm coming to myself. I realized that, you know what, one of the hardest things that the hardest part of this process is actually looking in the mirror and accepting accountability, which is honestly one of the one things you're not going to find too many people doing anyway. You know what I'm saying? That's like the word integrity, the word honor. All of these things really don't mean as much as they used to in the world that we live in today. You know what I'm saying? But I had to go back and humble myself, and with my integrity and honor, I had to go back to and apologize to people for hurting them, for if I did them wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, so now I realize, like, oh, this goes both ways. This thing is deep. You have to ask for forgiveness in order to get for forgiveness. All of the things that you have done in the wrong in the past, you know what I'm saying? You have to
Mm.
go back now and try to correct some of those things that you have done. I think we talked about the story of Eli one time, right?
Mm.
No, who's that? Not Eli, Elijah, Jacob and Elijah, right? And no matter how much blessed he was, or how blessed he was, the blessing was on him. He still never received the full name until he accepted the fact that he was a deceiver. He never, until he said, yo, I'm a liar. Now he was free. Then that day he was wrestling like, no, I'm not going to go nowhere until you bless me. And then that's when he said, I'm going to change your name. So those are all the things that, like, that is all of those things is a part of that process of trying to find, new ground and trying to develop yourself and get to where you need to be.
So if somebody's watching this right now, right, and they're going through a situation right now,
Hmm.
what would be the best advice to give them?
Get quiet, meditate. I would say, like, even right now. So, I was going to talk to you, and we didn't get a chance, like you said today. Like, we get like open up a portion of this. Like, we're gonna talk about what we're gonna talk about, and then probably spend like the next 5, 10 minutes, whatever, like getting to whatever comments and stuff that we have, right? And then we're gonna go to the rest of it, right? So that was one of the conversations I was gonna have, so we can just open it up and just answer some of the comments or talk to the comments. But what I would say is, if I was to talk to anybody right now or tell them, it's like that your quiet time, your alone time, your meditation time, it's going to be the best part of your growth. One of the comments was talking about therapy, and therapy is good. But I had this one question. I was like, I was at work, right? And I got to the point where I couldn't stand my job. Like I to this day, like if I could leave my job tomorrow, I would. I wouldn't even go back. I just don't have the type of faith right now. I'm just being honest. So if I went to a therapist and I know that the things on my job is pretty much, it's insane. And that's the only way to explain it. The things that's happening on my job is pretty much insane. Lack of accountability, lack of leadership, just chaos. It's nonsense, right? People inside of themselves, the arrogance, the selfishness, you know what I'm saying? The pride, the things that these people are doing. Like, if I went to see a therapist, what would they actually tell me? I actually asked people around me. I'm like, that went to therapy. I'm like, would you give me coping mechanisms? So, some people are, oh, you're battling depression. Let me give you some drugs. I'm like, no, I don't need no drugs. Like, what you going to give me? A coping mechanism to deal with insanity? You know what I'm saying? That's not what you're supposed to do. So what I started doing is I started believing in myself and saying, let me invest in myself. And I started going and practicing and studying. And really I'm at the point where all I need to do is take my test so I can get my home improvement license. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to invest in me. But, one of the comments was therapy. So I would ask people, like, even if you go through therapy, I would say, at what point in life did somebody tell you that this thing ain't supposed to be hard? What part in life this thing ain't supposed to be rough? You listen to them old songs, I'm going up on the rough side. That's what they tell you. Nobody told me the road would be easy. These are the things that we're supposed to go through. Part of it is a process. Because God's answers are yes and amen, I think it's a matter of us, like you said, meditating and getting quiet to find out and understand what part of the process God have us in. I never forget one time I had my lights turned off, right? And this is one of the things that came to me. I was worrying, I was upset, weird stuff. I wasn't, on top of my finances and learning how to do things yet. And what I realized is most people go through pain and they panic and they do things because they just simply don't have a plan. People get anxious. They don't know how this is going to work out. I don't know how this is going to happen. I don't know which way this is going to come. You know what I'm saying? But when you have a plan, I went to go see energy assistance. I went to go this, that, and the other. I made these steps and took these steps, these processes. And I knew that if I did A, B, C, and D, my life is going to be back on, right? That's the same way all of this works. You have to understand your process. You have to understand the plan for your life. You have to understand what is going on. And how would you ever get that understanding? God said, I'm in James 1, I'm not going to leave you without nothing. If it's up to me, God's like, to paraphrase, he said, I'm going to give you everything that you need. I'm not going to leave you out here, behind out and in lack. I was young, damn old. Never have I seen the righteous forsaken, nor seeds begging for bread. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, we have to understand the part of our process. Once we understand what part of the process that we're in, things have become a lot easier. But a lot of times we just don't know how this is going to end. How am I going to heal? That's why you got to immerse yourself with the word. You got to understand it. You got to be around people that's going to pray for you, people that's going to encourage you, build you up. Even in your quiet time. Those are all the things that you need in your life.
And it's, again, if anybody's watching this, people are going to be watching this later on. This is a Finding Notice podcast. We talking about turning your pain into blessings and what steps we got to take in order to get there and how for us to embrace the process. You have to. We try to give it to you as real as possible because there's no way for us to fabricate or sugarcoat to make you feel better. Everybody that watches us know that we use our personal experience to empower the next person to make a decision that will help them get to that next level, right? And we're talking about finding ways to turn your pain into a blessing. We talked about a few things. We talked about, first of all, forgiving ourselves. I think a lot of us don't forgive ourselves at all. We know we've done wrong, but the people that we have done wrong to, before you can ask them for forgiveness, you have to hit a level of maturity to say, you know what, I have done wrong to this person. So in order for you to ask for forgiveness, you have to first forgive yourself, because if you don't forgive yourself, that's another baggage that you got to carry on right there. Yeah. So once you forgive yourself and you ask for forgiveness, whether they give it to you or not, you have freed yourself from that burden.
Yeah,
because you did your part. One, you forgive yourself. Two, you ask for forgiveness for the person that you wrong.
Then the burden becomes theirs to bear.
Right. So you want to
free. The whole purpose is you got to clean your hands.
Right. So you definitely want to clean yourself from that situation. But then again, you want to find yourself in a situation where now you're struggling, especially to my brothers who come home. Especially to my brothers who come home who don't have a way out of nothing, who can't get a job worth nothing. You have to understand that it's a process. It was a process for you to get in. Now it's a process to get you back to that free world. But that process can only begin by the transformation of your mindset. That is the key. A lot of us that go behind that wall come back home thinking the same way we were thinking before we got in. Especially the brothers that go in. We go in with one mindset, come back with the same mindset. A lot of us don't make it out into the free world. Right. The ones who do make it are the ones who come back with a transformation of their mindset. How do you turn that pain? How do you turn those years you've given to the state or the county, the federal government? How do you turn those years of pain and suffering? No food, no money on your commissary. Your people that turn their backs on you. Your girl that you love, she didn't even left you. The kid that you thought was yours ain't even yours. Your mom has passed away. You can't even go to the funeral. How do you turn that pain into a blessing?
No.
And the only way you do that, it starts with this.
Changing your mind.
This controls everything else. The rest of it. And it's funny because we talk about the heart. This got to tell the heart to keep pumping it. If not, the heart won't pump.
Not only that, you hear stories in the world about people saying, like, when they say their baby or their loved ones was underneath of a car, and all of a sudden they get this supernatural strength to be able to lift the car up and save people and do certain things. Like, where did that come from? That stuff comes from here. Because that's what it's after. That's, that's the biggest dilemma, the biggest fight we'll ever have in our life is controlling the mind. Bringing our flesh under subjection, bro.
And I think it's something that we have to dive into to really understand in regards to us making that change within our lives. We're human beings where woe is me. I've never met a person that never had a problem, that never had something that they're going through. But those people that are making it, they're making it not because they're special in any kind of way or they're different. It's because they have a different mindset.
Right.
I didn't come from the village. I didn't come from the village saying that I wasn't going to be nothing in America. I came from the village with hopes and aspirations of becoming somebody and doing something for myself. Yeah. So even though I took a rough road to get there, I never fell off that mission. My mindset was, I may have slipped up and went a different way, but I remember what my thought process was and came back to my senses. I knew who to go to for that help. I knew how to submit myself and be submissive to God and say, God, I can't get here unless you get there and you're waiting for me. I remember when I got picked up by immigration, right? See, another things I'm about to share with you guys because I keep it real and trying to be transparent. I remember when I got picked up by immigration for the charge that I caught in 2006 in Baltimore on campus at Coppin. And I remember immigration came and picked me up 5 years later. And when immigration came and picked me up, they picked me up from DC, Landover, to Baltimore, the facility down in downtown Baltimore, the immigration facility down there. From Baltimore, they took me to York Correctional Facility in Pennsylvania. I was in Pennsylvania, and I met a friend down there, a dude from Honduras, and I was talking to him, just kind of like trying to kill the time. I was told I was going to be out in a couple of days. Couple of days turned into a couple of weeks. Couple of weeks turned into me waking up 3 o'clock in the morning. And I remember waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and they told us it's time for you to go. So my mindset was like, I'm finally free. I'm going home.
Mm-hmm.
Make long story short, they took us to the basement of the York Correctional Facility. And as I entered into the room, right, as soon as I got to the door, I already had cuffs on my hands in front of me. As soon as I got to the door, they put chains around my waist. Then they put chains on my ankles. Then they connected the ones from my waist to my hands. Right? So as I entered into the room, I see nothing but men all lined up around the room. I had to be at least 300-400 of us from Africa, from Mexico, from Panama, from Jamaica, everywhere. Right? And I remember going, and you stand in line, and then when you get to the front of the line, there were 4 immigration officers, senior officers sitting there, and they tell you where you're going. So when you get to the front, they say, hey, you're going to Arkansas facility. And then you get on the Con Air to go to Arkansas. Yeah, you're going to El Paso, Texas. So you're going to El Paso, Texas. Hey, you're going to the one in Washington, D.C. or Virginia. So you're going to Virginia. I get there, right? And it was my turn. And I get there. And I remember before I got there, the guy was asking me, and mind you, this is all painful experiences that I'm going through. But my mindset is that, God, I know where you are, and I know that you see me here. Right? So as I got to the front, and as I get to the front, they said, oh, you're going to, what did he say? He said, you're going to El Paso, Texas. I smiled, and I said, oh, wow, I've never been to Texas before. The guy said, well, you sound like you happy. You happy like you know you're going to get deported, right? I laughed. I said, listen, the reason why I'm smiling is because if I know God is waiting there for me, I said, me going to Texas, I'm going to Texas because I know who's waiting there for me.
Hey.
So if I'm going there, and I said, as long as God is waiting for me, I'll be okay. Because my mindset was, God, if you're there, I will make it there. But if you're not there waiting for me, I'm done. But if I can make it down there, God, while you're waiting there for me, man, my problems are over with. So I was asking God, I said, God, whether you keep me here in the United States or you take me back home, don't let me become a disappointment amongst my family. That's where the story of Jabez came in play at, with that conversation I had with you.
Right.
How do you turn your pain into a blessing? How do I ask God to take the tears that's coming out of my mom's face, who came and saw me for 5 minutes, who traveled 13 hours from Ghana, drove from DC to Alabama, 11 and a half hours to see me for 5 minutes in that thick glass, and I'm sitting, I said, Mom, I'm here again. And she said, Kojo, I understand. I said, Mom, if there's any happiness left in your life, the same way that I brought tears of pain to you, I'm asking God to turn that pain into a smile on your face. And I can honestly say this with the right hand of God and my faith in God, that my mom is happy because she's seen the results.
That's
so
right.
Then the question that you have to ask yourself is, how then, God, do you turn my pain into a blessing?
I think a lot of it, once you get to those steps that we already talked about, right? Then you have to get to the point where you remember or understand the promises of God. Because that's what you're talking about. You were able to stand on and be fortified in the promises that God has gave you. And that's one thing I was saying, like one of the other pods we was doing, right? Like, what are we fighting for? What are we fighting? We're fighting to hold fast to the promises that was already given to us. Now, if you want them promises to come forth, like you said, it's a process. It's like what I was telling my friend, like a friend of mine, like a week ago. I said it's like baking a cake, right? When you look at the ingredients on the cake, and it tells you to put the eggs and stuff, like you can't use what you want to use and put in what you want to put in to get the results that you want. You have to follow the recipe. If you want a cake, if not, you're gonna get something. Yeah. Ain't no telling what you're gonna get. You're gonna get something. But you can't substitute too much for that. You know what I'm saying? You can use your coconut oil instead of your vegetable oil. You can do different things. But at the same time, if you're not putting the oil, the eggs, if you're not beating it correctly and mixing it correctly, you will not get what you're looking for. And then what's the other thing to tell you? You just can't be opening the doors or making noise because then the cake is going to fall. You know what I'm saying? There's certain things you have to do to follow that procedure and that process so that you can get the promises that you remember. But a lot of times we don't know the promises. A lot of times we forget those promises. So that's one thing, like you said, that I had to start running for. When he said, I'm going to make you a head and not the tail. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to make you a lender of nations. When you start asking questions like, God, this is what your word said. He is not a man that he shall lie, nor the son of man that he shall repent. So if everything you're saying is true, then the question now becomes, why aren't these things coming true? And then you have to, this analogy, I said, we walking down the aisle, right? We was at Home Depot. I said, we walk down the aisle, you drop $20 in your pocket. You dig in your pocket, you reach it for something, say you dig in your phone. You pull your phone out, you drop $20 on the ground. And you sit back and you get to the line, you're like, dang, where did I leave my, what happened? Where's the $20? You have to go back and retrace your steps. You have to now stop, go back to when you dug in your pocket and try to remember, where did you leave off at? Where did things go wrong? What happened in your life and what happened when things start taking a curve? Then you trace it back to there and then you start walking and then you pick it up and go back on the path that you're supposed to be walking down. You know what I'm saying? So that you can get to where you got to get. But it starts with remembering who you are. You got to start remembering those promises that was promised to you. And then you have to go down there. It's not us. It's not him. It's us.
Yeah, it's us. And like you said, it's a tough process, but it's a beautiful ending to that process. If you can hold your faith to the end of that.
That's the only thing I have left, bro. I mean, I think that's the only reason why I keep fighting. I fight so that I can get to that end, so I can get to that promise. You know, I don't want to get through all of this. And it's been a lot of years of my life. I can't lie. I've been obedient and not doing some of the things that I knew that I was supposed to be doing. But I keep fighting and I keep hoping and I keep believing because, you know, that's the reason why, like I said, we share these testimonies. That's the reason why because God is no respect of person. So if you're listening to something that we're saying and you get the results and the belief behind it, I'm happy. My soul rejoices. I'm pushing you forward. You're getting the results that you want to get until my time comes, because now I know, you know what I'm saying, that my time is going to come eventually. That's what I hold on to, because what do you say? That I believe that the things. Ah, man, I don't know why I forget these lines, but they all cliches though. You know what I'm saying? These are the ones that everybody like. For I reckon that the things of this time is something that's never going to be better than what we have now. You know, the stuff that we have now and the stuff that we're looking for now has nothing on the future that we have coming to us. And that's what I look forward to. You know what I'm saying? I look forward to that expected.
You still there?
Yeah. I seen it went off.
You had froze up for a second. But that's what we're trying to. That's the message that we're trying to get out there today. How to turn your pain into a blessing. How do you begin to take the steps to understand who you are and where you're going through? Because it's not. Nobody's saying it's easy. I've shared with you guys how long it took me to save up my down payment. If COVID didn't come through and boosted me along the way, I'll probably still be doing my 7. I'll probably doing my 8, 9 years, 10 years like I was locked up.
You talking about the money bag Joe gave out?
Man, let me tell you something, Joe.
Money bag Joe. I ain't mad at money bag Joe.
You get what I'm saying? Because while people were blowing their money and buying them long, them cockroach legs, them sea roaches, aka the snow king crab legs. Well, y'all was spending them $200, $300, $400 on them Gucci belts
Oh my
and,
God.
and acting like you guys are going to some island show. Some of us, like me over here, was still eating my oodles and noodles with me and my 3 kids.
But that's the whole purpose. Like he said, when he was saying, like, yo, you remember the promise, you're holding true to it, right? I remember when I went through my process, I was 30. So it was 2 years removed after everything that happened, right? I said, in 5 years, I'm gonna get my credit straight, I'm gonna get me a house, and I'm gonna buy me a car. And I said, and that's what I said, write the plan down, write the vision, make it plain. You give this over to God, let God breathe on it, and then ain't no telling what he'll do to it. Mm-hmm. I got all mine in 2. I bought my house. I've been here. I was 32 years old, and I've been here for 8 years, going on 9. This year will be 9. Yeah, bro. I was like, wow. And now I had to go back to the drawing board and ask God, all right, what I'm supposed to do next? Right. What's going on? Because I gave that plan straight over to him.
I'm telling you, man.
And he did it in 2. And when I tell people I did everything backwards, see, that's how you really understand. And I keep telling people this, when you know that God really is doing it and how you move in faith, right? Because some people will wait until they get everything straight and get everything in order and then do certain things. But if you're waiting that long to do it, you know what I'm saying? Who's to say that when you first go to your house, first time homeowners classes, they make you take them here when you buy your first house, right? The first thing they tell you is never contact the people that's selling the house. I did that. You know what I'm saying? They tell you go get your credit straight. I didn't do that. They tell you, once you get your credit straight, this, that, and the other, then we gonna do this, that, and the other. Bro, I move purely in faith, bro. I purely in faith.
You want to hear something? And contrary to what you're saying,
go ahead.
I lied to my realtor, right?
Oh,
no, man. Well, I didn't have my money ready to buy a house, right?
Right.
But I wanted to know how much it was going to cost me to come to the table with.
Right.
So I called her. I said, hey, how you doing? I'm not going to say her name because I love this woman so much. I said, hey, how you doing? So I said, yeah, man, my neighbor told me you help him find the house. You know what? Me and my wife, we ready. We ready to move out of state. This is how much we're looking to spend on the house. I got my down payment, man. I just need to know, some numbers.
Right.
She said, oh, you ready? I said, yeah, I'm ready. No, damn well my credit is jacked up, and I'm going through the credit process, right?
No, but you was ready though. You was still ready.
But I'm ready. Yeah, she said, "Oh, you're gonna have 40,000 or 50,000." I said, "Oh, okay, but that's not a problem at all." I said, "How do we come to the table with the money? Is it a check? Is it a direct deposit? Is it a wire? What is it?" She said, "Oh, don't worry, when we get there, it's a bank wire." I said, oh, "Okay, but let me know." I said, "Matter of fact, send me some houses." She sent me a bunch of listings, Aaron. You know what I did with those listings?
What's that?
I said, "God, now help me find my house."
Yes, sir. And that's how you're supposed to move. Aaron, that's exactly how you're supposed to move, bro.
Aaron, I'm telling you. I sat there with my wife. I said, Dana, this lady said, okay, listen, I'm not trying to say anything to
without the vision, my people what? Perish.
Yeah,
if you don't see it, how can you get it?
I'm not trying to say anything to offend anybody. If you didn't learn anything from COVID, shame on you. When God stopped the world from people accessing it freely the way we're used to accessing it, if you didn't take the time to build some type of relationship with God, shame on you. If you're not holding on to that relationship to this time now, shame on you. Because when we talk about turning your pain and your sorrow into a blessing, you must be able to hold on to what you believe in order to get through that pain to receive the blessing. When COVID hit, COVID taught me so much, especially when it comes to family and friends. Because those who wasn't calling to check up on me, I said, hey, this is the guy that I talk to every day. Did they say that maybe if I call him on the phone, they'll get COVID or something? Nobody was calling, checking up on me. I'm calling everybody, man, you good? You straight? Nobody was calling on me. That was the first thing that I learned. The only thing that I had was my wife, my kids, and my God. And my 4 miles that I used to walk with a mask on my face outside in the open air as a fool. Right? But what COVID taught me was not to spend your money. This is, if you're looking for something, you have to save some of these blessings, because COVID to some of us was a blessing. I'm not saying to everybody. Again, I'm not saying to offend anybody, because I lost some friends. I lost some co-workers. I have co-workers lose parents. I had my mom and my brother rush to the emergency room suffering almost to death from COVID. So I'm not being ignorant to that. But what I'm saying is, within the midst of that pain, there was a blessing for some of us. Amongst the pain that people were going through, the death, the sorrow, there was a blessing for some of us. You have to be able to tap into that pain in order to receive your blessing. Even though we're going through that pain, we have to tap into the pain. And your pain is understanding what it is that you're going through. Mm-hmm. That's how you conquer the process. Mm-hmm. Because you can suffer all day long, but if you don't learn nothing from your suffering, you will continue to suffer, because a fool doesn't. What it says, it's a wise man corrects his mistakes. A fool repeats it. So you can continue to
Proverbs, buddy.
Right? You can continue to suffer in your pain if you don't understand what it is that you're going through. I had to understand that process. So I told you, 7 years I'm saving my money. 7 years I'm still broke. In 1 year I am a rich man, even though they took the money like this when it did the wire transfer. But it was for me to purchase my house. 1 year when COVID hit, now the world has stopped for me. Me and my family were in the house. We in a 900 square foot house. 900 square foot. When you open my refrigerator, right? Jesus Christ. When you open my refrigerator, my door can't even open all the way, because the fridge is bigger than the space that they put it in.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And as I'm suffering with my kids in this household, I'm asking God, I said, God, I need you to show me the way out of this. Mm-hmm. Teach me so I can learn, so I can maneuver my way out of this. Right. And the thing that came in mind was learn to save. So when people were posting on Facebook, Aaron, they got the snow crab legs. I didn't know Black people ate the king snow crab legs until COVID hit. Once I started seeing it, I said, damn, let me go see. Aaron, I'm not gonna lie. I said, let me go and see how much this snow can. $200. I said, hey. But you get what I'm saying? You go to the Gucci, you go to the mall, and people are lined up at the Gucci store. Spending the money they were getting.
I actually had a friend of mine at one time, a good friend of mine. We met at Coppin, and she asked me one time, she said, but why are you not living? And if anybody been paying attention to my page lately, I put a post on there. It was saying, are you dying to live, or are you living to die? And one thing that people don't understand in this world today is delayed gratification, which is something I had to learn. Everybody wants theirs now, but that also is a byproduct of the world that we're living in that makes people think that everything is around them. You know, I seen this little post on Facebook today. He said, when scientists learn to get to the center of the earth, a lot of people are going to be brokenhearted to find out that they're not in it. that the center of the earth they're not in the center of the earth. It's something like that. I thought it was mad funny, because a lot of people think that the world makes them think that we supposed to be living it up. We supposed to have things, and but if anybody really paying attention to the financial situation and the things that's happening in the world with Brazil and China, that's why he says store your riches up in heaven. That stuff ain't gonna matter no time in a little while. It ain't even gonna matter. So you gotta understand, what are we living for? What are we doing? You dying to live, or you living to die? Because my thing is, there's no need for me dying here on earth and suffering, and then trying to live in the suffering just to die, like you said, all over again. No, I want to live, bro, and I want to live right. I can wait and stand fast and endure, and stand on the promises that was given to me. You know what I'm saying? I'm supposed to have life and life abundantly. You know what I'm saying? Right now, I can look at my bank account. It don't say that. But I believe, and I know, because I know the work that I have to do is not just for me, it's for other people. Mm-hmm. You can't do nothing without anything. You can't do anything to help other people if you don't have anything. It's impossible to do that. That's how I know that the promises and the things that's promised unto me is going to include riches, because my mindset, my heart And the things that I'm gonna be blessed with is not just for me. It's so that I can do things for other people. But I am supposed to enjoy it while I'm here.
And again, if you're tapping in, we live, we talking about turning pain into blessings and how to understand or how to dissect what it is that you're going through when you are going through your pain. Because in order, as my brother said, in order for you to understand it or understand to go through that pain, you have to understand what it is you're going through. And when you're going through it, it's not fun. Nobody said it's fun. You don't want to work 7 days a week like I did. It's not fun. I almost killed 2 people in my shuttle bus. I was working at BWI Airport as my part-time job, my second job to save my money up. And I remember picking a guy up from the terminal, and I'm going back to the parking lot. And Aaron, I almost threw the bus into the gutter somewhere, man. I was asleep. The guy jumped at me and said, hey, man, what's wrong with you? I said, huh? He said, look where you're going. I said, oh, turn the bus into the right lane.
Oh, my goodness.
He said, man, what's wrong? I said, man, I'm just trying to save us some money, man. He said, man, what's good of you saving the money if you're dead?
You got that right.
I said, you know, you're right. He said, if you go back to the lot, if you don't park the bus and get off and go home, I'm going to stand here and watch you get in your car and drive off. If you stay, I'm going to report you to your managers about what just happened. And as soon as I got back, Aaron, I told him, I said, look, man, I'm tired. I can't do it. I'm falling asleep behind the wheel. I got to go. And they said, okay, you're going to have to talk to the manager. I said, it's better for me to talk to him than to him talking to my family saying that I'm gone. So I left, right? But it was suffering. It was pain. It was sleepless nights. I mean, it's 24 hours at the shuttle at the airport. I'm from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock the next morning, and then 7 o'clock I work my other daytime job to 4 o'clock to get 1 hour sleep to get up at 5 o'clock to go back to work. 4 years out of the 7, I did it 7 days a week, right? So I knew that God, I wanted something. How do I get that something through my suffering? I have to keep pressing on. I had to know my situation. I took that accountability. I'm going through this because I made ignorant decisions. Because I went from being a non-convicted felon to a convicted felon. I had to accept it. I said, man, I really messed up, God. I messed up and I hurt people along the way. In my situation, I can't find the people that I hurt along the way to say, look, I'm sorry. So only thing God, you know my heart. I don't know these people because I'm doing wrong to people that I never met. But please forgive me. So that way I can be a blessing to others. Now, God, take my shame. Take this shame that I'm wearing that every time I go look for a job, they say no. Take my shame and my disappointment and turn it to a blessing. Turn those tears that are coming down on Grace's face that she saw me for 5 minutes, turn those tears of sorrow into a tears of joy. I prayed for my situation to become a blessing. I didn't sit there and say, well, I can't get a job. Man, I remember somebody was trying to make an excuse for a deadbeat ass dad. Excuse the language, but I had to go in on this point. They trying to make an excuse for him. Everybody can't be blessed like you. I said, well, you thought I just got up and became blessed? You thought I just got up and came out as a convicted felon and boom. Voila, here you go. You know the suffering that I'm going through? If I didn't register to vote before I got locked up, I couldn't even vote. So when you talk about suffering and you talk about pain, you go through it because it builds your character. It builds your relationship with God. It builds your relationship with your friends and family. But you have to allow yourself to go through that process. But in order for you to understand that process, you have to understand your pain. You can't receive no blessing. And that's why most of us as believers, when we receive certain blessings, we squander it. We can be praying for years. We don't get it. It's not because God haven't heard you. He heard you the minute that you started the first prayer. But he knew your immaturity level. So he won't give it to you. He will allow you to suffer. So when you get it, you know how to enjoy it. But as us believers, we're quick to say, oh, God forgot about me. God has never forgotten about you. He just want to make sure that you go through that process for you to get that level of maturity so you understand the blessings that he's given you.
And not only that, you can't let other people speak something into your life that's not. And oftentimes, what just hit my spirit when you were saying that. It's like I remember when we go to church and then these prophets come in just like you said in your testimony. Oh, God said,
Mm-hmm.
and God said, and if you do this, and if you do that, and God said, and truth be told, God never said none of it.
At all.
So now you sitting up in here giving your money away, doing this, doing that, giving this, giving that. You believing in 3 days something gonna happen. That's why I hate them Facebook posts, man. If you type amen, God gonna do something. And like, man, God already said he gonna do it. So he gonna do it regardless if I type amen or not. But see, that's understanding what he said to you. That's why it's important to understand and know what he said to you. Therefore, like, if I came to you and said, JoJo, guess what, bro? Your name is JoJo. You ain't going to get excited about that because you already know what it is.
Yeah.
See, a lot of times we, oh, God, you said this.
And they run to the altar.
God ain't said none of that stuff, man. That's why I never got excited. People go, oh, God said you're going to be this and you're going to be that. I say, yeah, I know. That's what he told me. And I'm not saying it out of arrogance. I'm saying it out of confidence because I already believe what he has said. Now, I don't have to run down no aisle. I don't have to turn around in circles. And I don't have to cry and fart and all this other stuff for his promises to come true. Got to be careful who y'all let speak into your lives, man. Because if you understand and know the promises and what he already spoke to you, you ain't got to worry about any of those things.
At all.
You just got to continue to believe and fight your mind to continue to believe in that. Because they'll have you, if it don't happen in 2 days, if it ain't happen in 3 days, or it ain't happened when they said it, they try to make it seem like something is wrong with you.
Mm-hmm.
They try to make it seem like it's something wrong with your faith. And there's nothing wrong with your faith. It's just that you are believing in something that somebody said that God said and he ain't never said. That's just that. I'm sorry, I had to get that one off, bro.
I know we came on late today, but man, listen, I told you it was going to be a blessing for somebody because I know, man, we've had this conversation when I was in the car. I was like, look, man, I enjoy our conversations with you because I feel like whenever we get on this podcast, if it's not for somebody, I take it like it's for me. It's for me because what's being said, I still apply. I have to apply it. I still apply it to my life. I'm not. Right. Listen. I remember, Aaron. Let me tell you something. You want to hear something? When I first bought my house, I lost my job a couple of months later.
Yeah.
So now the same. These are some of the things you got to go through.
But if you're really a real believer, that is not unusual. But I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that have that same testimony to say that when they went up a level or they went higher or they was elevated, at the same instant they was going up, something crazy happened.
Yep.
I believe every believer had that testimony who say, dang, I thought everything was going straight and everything was doing good. But what they say, new levels, new devils, bro.
Yeah. As soon as I got into this house, man, my job started, Walden University started coming up with some BS and none of this and not this and this. You got to get COVID. You got to get your shot or you're going to lose your job. I ran and quickly got my COVID shot and everything. A couple of months later, hey, look, man, we're going to have to let you go, man. I said, you guys just made me sign off on this house and you guys agreed that I can work from home down in Georgia. All of a sudden, I said, you know what? Thank you so much. Because if the old me, I would have been crying. Aaron, nobody would eat in this house this day. We all would be suffering. But you know what I told my manager? I said, hey, man, thank you so much, man. He said, I said, man, is there anything else we got to talk? He said, no. I said, you know what, man? Thank you so much. But see, that's the beauty of God, because through that pain, if I would have dwelt in that pain, I would have never got the chance to get a job where I'm working now, making twice as money what I'm making when I was with Walden. And it didn't take me 30 days to find another job. It didn't take me 3 weeks to find another job. It took me 48 hours. So it's not about.
That's what I'm trying to
I knew the pain that the devil was trying to bring. I knew the anguish he was trying to bring. I knew the angle he was coming with.
Right.
Which is a new level, new devil. I knew what level I was on, and I knew what was coming with it. But I knew who I had. So I didn't let that stop me. I remember calling my
right.
mom. My mom was like, "Don't worry, don't ask God." I said, "Mama, hold on. This is 2021. Hold on. You ain't talking to the 2014 me. No,
That's
no, no, no,
right.
no, no." I said, "Mom, you sound like you're more worried than I am." I said, "Do you think God
That's
is
their
going to allow me
jobs, man.
for me to move from the DMV
Right,
to
right.
come to Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, to be a homeless in Georgia?" I said, "What, God doesn't like me that much? Why don't at least make me homeless in DC? At least I know people that know me that will give me some money in my hand. Bring me to Georgia to be homeless." I said, "Mom, I'm not worried about that." Hey, they gave me a time off. You know what I did? Me and my wife went to Puerto Rico for a week, came
There you
back.
go.
Man, let me tell you something. I lived my life the same way as if I'm still being blessed without no job.
Amen.
24
Amen.
hours later, I get an email. Another 24 hours later, I had a new job. They offered me the top dollar as if I asked them for it. I didn't. I said, "How much are you guys starting off?" I knew I was going to take the job regardless. I said, "How much you paying?" She said, "You know what? Based off your conversation on your resume, we're going to push for you to get the max." I said, "Oh, okay."
Amen.
She said, "How does that
Amen.
sound?" I said, "Sounds good. I'll take it."
Amen.
So it's about
just cool like that, huh?
Aaron. You know why, Aaron? Aaron, you know why? And I'm not saying, we don't talk out of arrogance. We don't talk about pride. We talk out of the belief of God. Because if I
Confidence.
make God smaller than
Big difference.
it's not you can't let your pain over drown you for you to lose your blessing.
Amen.
It's pretty much what I'm trying to get to. You cannot
Amen.
allow your pain to over drown you in order for you to receive your blessing. And you know what I'm saying? I told God, I said, "I'm not going to change anything about my life. I'm not going to change anything about the way I'm moving right now, because I know you already had a plan A to Z before this phone call came to me. So, God, I'm still going to take my trip. I'm not going to cancel it. I know, but before I go, I know you're going to take care of me." I went, and I had the best time of my life with my wife, bro. Why? Because I didn't let the pain that the devil wanted me to go through. So the blessings was there. So I knew the game. I knew what was coming up.
I give a bunch of you single people a little nugget too out there, as well as myself. He said, "He who findeth a wife findeth a good thing and favor." So a lot of things, a lot of people don't even understand. I hear you talking about your wife and y'all having fun and how you still loving your wife and things like that and how that happened. But in the book of Galatians says you make sure everything between you and your wife is straight so that your prayers don't be hindered. Amen. But see, that's another byproduct or result of how you live in your life, bro. But see, that's why I'm trying to find my queen, man, so I can get them blessings too.
Hey,
man.
Come to Ghana with me, man. Come to Ghana with me, man. There's plenty of wives waiting for you, man. Come to Ghana with me.
Ghana.
Come to Ghana. You want to
go?
No shade to the.
They gonna pay me. They gonna pay me for their green card, bro.
Hey, man, you don't even need your green card. Listen, this time you would want to live in Ghana before they would want to live in America.
Hey, I believe you. I'm tired of living here, bro. I ain't gonna lie.
You want to call me? You gonna be like, hey, man, where you at? I'm like, man, I'm in Georgia. You know where I'm at? Nah, where you at? I'm in the Zongo, man. What?
It's funny because one of my favorite shows, they just showed that on I think it was Ghana on Snowfall, where Leon and his wife went when this girl with the Ghana got married and everything.
Oh, they went to Ghana? I don't be catching that joint.
Yeah, they showed that joint, bro. They showed like the slave trade and all that stuff that went, man, that thing ain't gonna lie, that joint had me emotional.
Hey,
something
man,
got my eye a little bit, man. You just talking breaking down that history about the slave trade and all that.
I haven't posted that video when I went to the Elmina Castle, which is the gates of no return.
Right.
I couldn't even put a post the video, so I have not. It's still in my phone.
Right.
But I think we over time. Listen, man. Thanks for those who did tune in. Again, sorry it's a bad situation on my end. I had some stuff come up, but we wanted to make sure we get this podcast out to do a live one. Listen, man. Again, this is the Final Notice podcast. We're going to be shooting moving forward Sundays at 7 p.m. This is just an off day. The devil tried it, but hey, man, we made it work. This Wednesday, we have our first special guest. The flyer will be out tonight, leading up to Wednesday. Let me get my flyer out. Let me get my flyer so I can make sure I get the right information out here.
Shout out to Devin Johnson.
Okay.
From the I-95 Sports. That's who it is, man.
Yep.
Special guest.
Wednesday, we're shooting it. We will be live. This will be a live interaction with him, conversation with him. Man, look, we try. I love when my black brothers are doing something in the community. man, we invite you to come on. Let us know what you got going on. We want to be a blessing. You know what I'm saying? We trying to tap in all different atmospheres of our community. We want to uplift as many people as we can. It's not for everybody, but it's for somebody. Our job is to be that voice of a powerful change within our culture, whether it's within the church or within the community. We want to put positivity out there and empowerment out there for you to do better. So we're definitely going to have a pleasure speaking to our brother, Mr. Johnson, on Wednesday at 7 p.m. and let him talk about what he's got going on and how he's been a blessing to the community, and also tap in so that way you can actually see and ask him questions.
Ask some questions when you get to your fall sports is coming up. If you have any loved ones or family or friends that they want to sign their kids up for youth sports, you know what I'm saying? We'll have the director. I think that's his title, director. I got to go back and find out.
He is definitely the director
for East Baltimore.
Yeah, I-9 Sports franchise for the East Baltimore Baltimore area. Yes, he is the director of East Baltimore. Yep.
Yeah.
So we will have the flyer will be out as soon as this podcast is done. The flyer will be out on the podcast, on the Final Notice podcast page on Facebook, and also on my Facebook page, and also Aaron will share it. So we'll have it out. But definitely going down this Wednesday with our very first. I feel good, man, because he's our first guest that we have on here, man.
Yep, and first of many. We got a lot great to come on.
Oh, hold on, our sister Latoya. Hey, man, sorry we couldn't get to the comments, man. Latoya, man, we appreciate you, man. Sorry for the delay, man. Listen, man, we don't take anything for granted. We don't take you guys for granted, man. I just thank God that you guys are getting something positive out of this conversation, man. You know, I wish one of y'all would come on one day and just talk about some of the experiences that y'all been experiencing since tuning in into this show, man. Because at the end of the day, I feel like testimonies are words of encouragement to us and to others who may be going through the same thing, and we don't have a great sense of how to get out of that situation. So definitely appreciate you for that, man.
Yeah, make sure you take that Dunbar shirt off. You know how we
she got it.
Hey, you know it's late Clifton all thing.
Hey, man. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. This is the Final Notice podcast. Hey, man, hold up. Today's Sunday, man. What's your final notice for this upcoming week, man?
All right, my final notice is a little deep this week. And, I'm sorry it's a little late, but it's going to run over a little bit more. But speaking on blessings, right? I want y'all to understand how blessed y'all truly are, right? In Matthew 5, we all know in the church have come to know as the Beatitudes. It said, God bless those who are poor and realize their need. God bless those who mourn. I'm going to shorten this up a little bit. But listen to how he say who's blessed. God bless those who are humble. God bless those who are hungry and thirsty for justice. God bless those who are merciful. God bless those whose hearts are pure. God bless those who work for peace. God bless those who are persecuted for doing right. And when you really sit back and think about those things, blessings is the pain is in the blessing. You know what I'm saying? The pain is in the blessing. Mary said, and now think about it. Mary was pregnant in a time and an era where that was frowned upon. And she said she was blessed. So don't let people out here in the world fool you to thinking just because you got a new Benz, you got a new house, you got a new car, that's the blessing. Because he'll tell you what came after that. You know what I'm saying? The blessing is in the pain and is in the press. Don't let the pain overcome it. You know what I'm saying? The world will fool you and think just because you get in, you going on trips and you posting pictures on your social that you blessed. But behind those pictures, and when you get home, you just as lonely as can be. You know what I'm saying? You just as upset as can be, frustrated and anxious as can be. But that is in itself the blessing. When he said, when you are weak, that's when you're made. That's when his strength is made perfect. I messed that up, but anybody go to church know what that means.
Hey, man, look.
But go ahead, bro.
My final notice for this upcoming week is that find somebody to be a blessing to. Put your pain and your sorrow and whatever it is you're going through, put it to the side and be a blessing to somebody else. And see how God turned your situation around for you doing that to somebody else. So be a blessing to somebody else and see where God takes you, man. Again, thank you for tuning in. This is the Final Notice podcast. Moving forward, we'll be shooting on Sundays and also on Wednesdays, 7 p.m. on Sundays, minus today, and on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. as well. It will be live. We will have our in-between recorded shows But just, we try to keep it as interactive as possible. So again, thank you so much, and sorry for the delay. Full blame and accountability on this one, man. My brother had nothing to do with it. I'm taking the full charge, and I'm doing the time on this one, man. So again, thank you so much, and thank you for tuning in.
All right, y'all take it easy. Thanks, Kenneth Clark.
Yeah, brother Clark. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Appreciate you, brother.